Chapter 2. Devastation. Lying face down in a hole, his head feeling as if it were being pressed in a vice from the shelling taking place around him, Blankenship prayed for someone to find him in the hole. The image of Kaylee vanishing as fire and dirt rose all around her was seared into his mind. He lay motionless in the hole as shells from the Chinese artillery fell all around, throwing dirt, wood, and rocks in all directions, with much of it striking him as it filled the hole. In a short amount of time, the pressure forced on his ears from the explosion softened as the dirt and debris began covering them, though it did nothing to stop the ringing. The weight of everything the artillery had thrown in on top of him grew, as did the anger inside. As time passed and no shells chose to lie with him in the hole, Blankenship's anger turned to the need for vengeance at any cost. Pushing himself up from where he was being buried alive took all his strength. One or two more close explosions would have made where he laid his final resting ground. Instead, he rose like the dead in a horror film, and the scene fit well with the nightmare of devastation all around. He tried his best to push the last image he had of Kaylee from his mind and replace it with an earlier one that did not make him want to catch an incoming artillery round. Running on mostly instincts, Blankenship looked around for weapons, a task made difficult due to the continued explosions all around. Off to his left, he could see a person's head and an arm that appeared to grow from the earth, only the arm was waving and the head was speaking. As he looked and focused, he could see the two growing from the earth until the ground had given birth to a full-grown man who now ran in his direction. Blankenship stood confused at what he saw as the gray-haired man grabbed him by the upper part of his arm and began dragging him back to where he had just been born. Though he wanted to fight against the gray-haired newborn man from the earth, he just kept looking around for a weapon to fight the Chinese with. Blankenship had a feeling something wasn't right as the man practically threw him into the hole where others were waiting to catch him. "What the hell are you doing up there?" Blankenship heard the gray-haired man ask, but he did not know how to reply. As he tried to clear his mind, things just began to spin around him. "Colonel, I think he has a concussion," another person shouted over the explosions around them. "Keep him awake. This might go on for a while, and we need to be ready to move when it is over," Commander Atkins ordered. "Yes, sir." A countless number of Chinese artillery shells rained down throughout the day and well into the night as the Ozark mountaineers remained somewhat secure in their dugouts. With the dawn of a new day on the horizon, each man, woman, and child who still drew breath understood the day was not going to bring anything other than death and sorrow. Since the end of the shelling, they had spent most of the night looking for those who might need help, with only the moonlight and burning forest to guide them. Through it all, Blankenship grew sick of being poked by the soldier next to him, even though, after a few hours, he understood why he was being poked and not allowed to sleep. The soldier only said a few words to him, and they were almost always, "Are you awake?" Over the last few hours, Blankenship's head pounded, but he felt clarity returning, and as the morning light landed upon the dark face of the man next to him, he felt he recognized him. "Don't I know you?" Blankenship asked after once again being poked by the black man who had gang tattoos on his forearm. Looking slightly puzzled, the man raised his chin and replied, "How's the head?" Hearing the man speak, he was more convinced he knew him. "Fine. Now stop poking me. I'm not going to sleep. What's your name?" Blankenship asked, not sure if it was due to the low light or the concussion, but he could not figure it out. "The name's Tyrese. I came out of Louis with ya," Tyrese said, a hint of disappointment in his voice that the former cop didn't remember him after the struggle they went through together getting out of St. Louis. Blankenship did remember him and how he went from being a common street thug to helping others survive on the way out of the city. Blankenship thought, as he stared at the man, just how things had changed. Before the invasion, he would not have turned his back to him, even if prison bars separated them, and now Blankenship felt he could trust him with his life. "Yes, Tyrese, I do remember," Blankenship said. He rubbed his head as little drummer boys played a rumpa-dum-dum on the inside of his skull. As his thoughts began to clear, so did the memory of Kaylee vanish in dirt and fire. As the image returned, so did the need for vengeance. Disregarding his battered body's cries for him to remain, Blankenship rose to his feet and tried to look around, but the hole was too deep. Turning to where the dugout opened to the hillside, he moved to slide by Tyrese, only to be stopped by the man's massive hands. "The commander wants us all to remain here while the search parties are out," Tyrese stated, as Blankenship met him face to face. "There hasn't been any shells dropped in a while. He can go if he wants," Commander Atkins responded to Tyrese's comment. Tyrese stared into Blankenship's eyes, and there he saw a look that he had seen many times before, the look of a man determined to get retribution, though most revenge he knew of was taken against other gang members. Tyrese thought of how pointless each one of those acts was compared to why Blankenship sought retribution. Instead of just going against another gang, Blankenship was willing to go against an entire army to have it, and for that he admired him more. Before releasing his grip on Blankenship, Tyrese raised his right hand, which held the AR-15 rifle he had been given when they reached the Ozark Mountaineers camp. "You're going to need this," Tyrese said, releasing Blankenship from his grip as he handed the rifle over. Without saying a word, Blankenship took the rifle with his right hand as his left accepted the full magazines Tyrese removed from his vest. Securing the extra ammunition in his pocket, Blankenship only paused for a second as he locked eyes with Tyrese, as if to say thanks, before turning and exiting the dugout. Blankenship headed down the hillside and ran whenever possible, but with the heavy Chinese artillery turning the forest into a giant game of pickup sticks, the distances were short. All around him the air was thick with smoke and dust that further impeded his progress, though he did not have any certain time to be there, and did not even necessarily know the location he was heading other than east. Thoughts of the time he spent with Kaylee came and went, starting with a happy memory of how she would look at him with her big, dark brown eyes and ending with adrenaline rushing through his body as the image of her death reappeared. Hours passed as he continued moving forward, seeking his vengeance, and with the progress, a strong thirst reminded him how foolish it was not to have taken the time to pack water. Blankenship's need for vengeance prevented him from doing much planning other than what to kill the enemy with and which direction they were located. In his mind, the enemy was just at the bottom of the hill, and he had to get there to kill them, and most likely die while doing so. Had things worked as he had imagined, water and other essentials would not have been needed. Yet here I am, he thought, as he emerged from what was left of the forest. Looking out over the destroyed community that lay ahead, he felt his body rebelling against him as he took another step in the direction of the enemy. After spending most of the morning climbing, running, crawling, and jumping, the muscles in his body didn't care if he wanted vengeance. Blankenship could feel the drummer boys in his head become louder with every step he took. Each step seemed to take more energy and focus than the last. Between the beats of the drums, he swore he would not stop, so he tightened his grip on his weapon. But then through blurry eyes, he spotted his rifle lying on the ground. His confusion became even greater when it appeared to come rushing up to him as the world tilted. He reached out for the rifle where it had stopped inches from his face as his eyelids began to close.